So you think that you can build turrets. Now I don't want to waste any of your time, so I'm going to drop some important knowledge and I'm going to try to drop it quick. This information has been sourced from both myself and my community, but still that doesn't mean we know everything. So if you've got any useful turret tips, drop them in the comment section below and hopefully we can pull together some great building ideas for when it comes down to turrets. But let's get started. Now first off, we have the how do you connect a small hinge to a large hinge. Well, this is easy. You grab yourself a landing gear, you stick it in the middle here, then you place your hinge component on the top. Once that's done, you run to a menu and you slap the attach key. This will connect the small hinge to the large hinge and then simply delete the landing gear. Then we can start building. So while we're talking about adding rotor heads, you can also add a 3x3 hinge. You can jump in the hinge option and you can add small head. It'll simply attach it on like so. You can weld it up. Now you might be wondering, why would you prefer that over the smaller one? Yes, you could make a more compact turret with the smaller one, but this one does have more hit points. It's also useful for attaching a missile launcher, but if you don't want to attach a missile launcher, you can use the conveyor converter like so, and that will convert that large pod to small little ports, and you can start adding your weapons right onto the front here. The next area that players run into issue is weapon depression. And if you add a conveyor onto the end here with 2 Gatling guns, when you lower it, you'll notice that you're stuck with a 90-degree off flat plane. If we want to engage targets below this, we're going to have to engineer our way through it. And the simple way of doing this is add a conveyor corner, lead that into a T-junction, and then add your Gatling guns to either side, and you'll notice we can now depress the gun below that 90-degree off flat plane. This is great for if you're a player, but you need to be careful if you're using this with the AI setting, or sometimes it can get stuck within itself. So what can we do to stop the turrets from breaking themselves? Well, we can jump on the settings of the hinge and we can limit the hinge. So move the turret simply down to the lowest point before it starts having any issues. Set that as the hinge's limit. This will stop it when the eye jumps into control of it from it completely clanging out. Now the next little tip that I want to give you from our community is adding yourself a reticle. Yes, the turret does usually give you a standard reticle, but if you want to take this to the next level, or the turret controller is not giving you a reticle, then simply add a clear LCD in front of your camera. Once that's been placed, add yourself a cross to this LCD, type in a letter 0 or O, center that in the cross, and then delete the cross, and you now have a reticle to aim through. Of course, you can take this to the next level by adding some increments for ranging, but do consider the planet's gravity, because that ranging increment will change depending on the gravity or if you end up in space. So let's take a look at larger turrets for a second. Now the first factor for both small and large is the weight of a turret itself. The heavier a turret is, the harder it is to control. So in the case of this one, we've got the Mammoth turret, and there's a few things about this turret that are great, and there's a few things that are not so good about it. So let's have a quick look. So first off, one of the issues with this is there is a hell of a lot of weight on this hinge. Yes, the hinge is well recessed and well protected, but that is a heavy lot of armor. Yes, the barrels are protected, but that means when we start moving this turret, we're going to have a lot of swing. Now, another good feature of this is look how well protected this rotor is. The rotor is actually recessed all the way down here, and it's very unlikely that that rotor is going to get hit or destroyed. So quite good there, but let's jump into the turret controls itself. So in the command center down here, we access number 4 and we get turret control. So the first thing you'll notice is how slow this turret is moving due to the weight, and look at the oversteer. So I'm steering to the left and I'm starting to steer right, but it takes a second to stop and move back. Alright, so if we get ourselves out or back onto the camera. Now, the creators of this recommended using the arrow keys. If you've not used the arrow keys to control a turret before, you'll understand why the arrow keys work better with a heavier turret. So keep your turrets light unless you want to build something crazy like this Mammoth. You can see the artillery guns down the barrels there as well. Now with a heavier turret, there's another consideration, and that is locking them in place. So as you can see down on the menu at the bottom, we have a lock. So we can lock the rotor, so I can no longer turn the turret. That helps us when we're moving along terrain, so clang doesn't get us. And secondly, we can lock elevation. So that'll stop us from being clanged out as well. So 2 more key features to consider when building a turret, especially a heavy one. Now let's talk about printing turrets. Printing turrets can be a little bit daunting because they don't attach or come in automatically because they're a subgrid. Because of that, we need an interesting way of attaching them, and we can use merge blocks. So we've got two cool examples. The first one is Loot Goblin on a small grid here, and all the yellow blocks are the blocks that need to be cut away, but you'll notice that they are merge blocked in place and they have a timer block. When the timer block is activated, it activates basically a loop that just constantly activates the attach command for both the hinge and the rotor. Now, as he cuts away the pink part, that is another substructure support, and as soon as he hits the merge blocks, it drops these components down into place and locks them in, and this allows it to be printed. Now, the other example is of the larger variant, and you can see the exact same here. We've got a spammy sort of timer block that spams the attach command, and then when the merge block is released, the large turret drops into place and attaches. So let's talk weakness of custom turrets. And some players believe that custom turrets are that weak or have that many weak points that they are useless compared to the vanilla game turrets. But hear me out. There's a lot of firepower here you can have in a very small package, and I think if you don't have at least one, then you are missing out. And you've probably thought, could we just have a welder underneath it that keeps it repaired? So let's have a look at Josh's design. Josh's design uses 3 welders to keep the weak spots repaired the best as possible. So what are the weak spots? We have the rotor at the base, we have the hinge, we have the conveyors, the weapons, and the camera. If one of these is shot out, the turret loses a lot of its effectiveness or is completely destroyed, and one volley of missiles or a direct hit from an artillery cannon and it's gone. So you need it to be built in a way that you can quickly repair it, and this is what this turret is all about. So if you lose a component, you can use the supplies from the welder that are pushed up from the internal cargo to weld the next component up, and by adding a simple projector to the top area, Josh can quickly reinstall his weapons and barrels and get that heavy amount of firepower back into the fight quickly. Now, if you're like me, turrets are not all about functionality. They're also about adding beauty to the design and creating something that's unique and really cool. Now, another consideration is the spacing of the armor. Just look at this RAB tank. This is fantastic. Look at the spacing that this turret, the clearance that it's got here, how the armor overlaps each other, offering protection to both the hinge and the rotor, allowing the turret to elevate up and down as it wishes. So we'll have a look at the cutaways quickly. So this is what it looks like inside. So you can see we have actually got it connected up to one of the converter blocks down at the bottom that is feeding the ammo up into the turret. And then look at how this turret is spaced out here. It's almost perfectly worked out, adding as much armor as possible to the turret design without taking away or risking it clipping into the tank itself. So we've got an even further cutaway here showing the upper segment of the turret. And so as you can see, as that weapon would elevate, it's got this area here where the gun can elevate into, and it's got this area below protected by a lovely armor block there where it can angle itself into. Each one of these blocks has been placed with precision. The RAB builders behind this really know what they're doing. You can see the camera up there. Yes, it's not the strongest of designs, and we do see this turret shot out in battle, but it certainly is beautiful, and it's really nice to see with the eyes. Like I said at the beginning of this video, it would be amazing if we could all come together in the comment section, put our differences aside, put our strategies aside, and share some amazing building tips so we could come out with some even better turrets as a community in the future. I can't wait to see what you're going to be writing. I'm going to be trying to view as many comments and respond to as many as possible, and I'd also really like to thank all my community members who came together, donated designs, showed me different things, and really helped me build this strategy video for when it comes to building turrets. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.